Gear Patrol calls their new dive watch the best sub-$500 dive watch. Full stop. Men's Health rated them as the most stylish solar watch in the game. Who are we talking about? It's Movement. They're leveling up your gift giving with the sleekest watches you can buy and the biggest deals of the season. From their innovative ceramic materials to sexy automatic divers, from ultra-thin dress watches to solar-powered statement pieces, and everything in between, Movement is making sure you're the good gifter this year for your family, your friends, or for yourself. And now you can take advantage of 30 to 50% off Movement's California clean watches, jewelry, and accessories to get them a gift they'll never forget. With fast, free shipping and returns and amazing bang for your buck, Movement makes for a relaxed shopping experience. And with one-size-fits-all watches, it's an easy, elegant gifting experience too. Shop 30 to 50% off now at mvmt.com. That's mvmt.com.
Hello and welcome back to the Potted Together podcast. My name is Adam and I'm joined by my co-hosts Becca and Nicole. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hello. I always say hello, ladies, and I was like, is that offensive? I don't know.
No, not at all.
No.
Not to me.
I'm a lady.
Little woman might be offensive, but...
Hey there, little lady.
Ooh.
Oh my gosh.
Episode 2, you guys, already. So I'm just curious, for our catch-ups, can we talk about some plants that are like doing well and not doing very well? Because I have some plants that aren't doing that great, and I want to see if I'm alone in this boat.
Oh, yeah, for
Absolutely.
Sure. No.
Okay.
Nicole, what's a plant that is thriving for you currently? Start with the good. No. Start with the bad and then end with the good.
Okay, the bad, I hate to say, are my cacti. Like, quite a few of my cactus are just... And, you know, they got front row right under those grow lights, but it's winter, and I feel like I may have overwatered them. Even though I don't really give them a lot of water in the winter, I don't know, man, I'm getting a vibe that maybe I gave them too much water, like, in November. I don't know, but they're not looking that great. They're not looking that happy. I've already lost one, which I had another one of, so I'm not that worried about it, but... just worried, just worried. And then some that are doing really well are pretty much all of my Monstera, like my Siltepecana, my Peru, my Deliciosa, Thai. All of them are doing really, really well. And they weren't like a few months ago. So I'm really happy about that. But I'm curious, what about you guys? What has winter brought your plants?
Ooh, I think one of my plants, like my favorite plant, my philodendron Maricosa melanochrysum, I think that it got cold damage inside. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't felt ready to acknowledge it yet, but I'll show you guys a picture. And but cold damage like turns black though, right?
Yeah, like frost damage, yeah.
And then it dies. Mm-hmm. So the plant hasn't died. Like that leaf has not died, but it does have some like, it looks like cold damage, like along where like the center vein of the leaf is. I'm confused. I'll show you guys a picture of it later. But that plant seems to be doing okay. And I talked in the last episode about my varicosum not doing well. Leaves dropping like flies. We're down to like one last leaf that has not unfurled yet. And like one node. I'm like, please, for the love of God, please. But I kept a bunch of the nodes when I propped it. And they're
that's good.
Yeah, they're in a propagation box, and I don't think anything has happened, but I at least have that to hold on to. And then for plants that are doing well, I have a small anthurium, like Doriaki crystallinum cross. And it's putting out another leaf right now, and also one of my other anthurium like Baloanum or something like that, that's putting out a new leaf too, which I'm shocked by in the winter and when it's cold and not humid. So that's really exciting.
Yeah. I mean, you totally got an upgrade on light, though. So, like, they're probably just loving that.
Yeah, the light probably is helping a lot. A lot. So that's my
Yeah.
update.
Well, my not so good plant situation. This has happened to me. This is the second plant. This is the second plant I have had, a variegated peace lily, Spathiphyllum domino. And I had one a couple years ago, and it was doing well. I repotted it, and it just like died after the repot. And then I got another one when I first moved to Arizona because it was at Trader Joe's, and I was like, yes, I'm going to try this again. And it has been thriving for a year, over a year. And I repotted it recently. When I say recently, I mean in like the last month, maybe 2 months. And it just died. The whole thing just died. I mean, it wasn't even like it just immediately, it went floppy and never recovered. And I was just, I don't know, that makes me so mad. It was such a beautiful plant with beautiful variegation, and I couldn't resuscitate it. So I'm just like, maybe, I don't know. If you guys have had a peace lily, or if anyone listening has had a variegated peace lily, did you experience this too? Because this is now the second time that I've repotted a variegated peace lily, and it's died. I just don't get it.
Did you say that you had it in LECA or soil? I don't know if I missed that.
Oh, it's in soil. Yeah.
Oh,
that one's
okay.
in soil.
I've never had one.
They're so pretty, but it makes me so mad.
I bet.
And thriving, my philodendron billietier is just like doing the most this winter.
Yeah.
And my philodendron squamiferum, I cut it maybe like 4 or 5 months ago to like share, and it started growing a new branch, and the first leaf on that thing is just gigantic. It was like bigger than the one before it, and it just keeps putting out these huge leaves with those furry petioles. It's just it's wild.
I was gonna say the squamiferum's the one that has the fuzzy petioles, right?
Yeah, and it's not like a soft. They're not soft to the touch. They're like kind of rigid and hard, but it's just it's a cool looking philodendron. So I'm happy about that one.
The one that you gave me, the piece that you gave me, it actually just put off a baby leaf because it was like a.
Did it?
It was like a center cutting, and it had to put out a new branch, and it took a little while, but it put out a new leaf, and it's like a beautiful light green color.
Oh, that's cool.
I'll send you a picture.
They're such a like. Yes, please do. I love getting updates on plant babes. But that one, the squamiferum that I have, the mother plant, is in LECA, so I tend to like steer away from putting philodendrons in LECA just because their roots are they just go like the most. There's just so many roots on philodendrons, but
yeah,
that one's doing well.
Well, that's good.
And that leads us into today's topic of soil versus LECA.
Woohoo!
You can kill plants in both mediums.
Awesome.
So LECA, if you guys are listening to this and you don't know what LECA is lightweight expanded clay aggregate. Did I say aggregate right?
Yeah, you did.
Ooh.
Aggregate.
So I never know if it's aggregate or aggregate. Like I always want to say aggregate.
Oh, I say aggregate. I mean, either
So do
works. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I want to say aggregate, but I'm pretty sure aggregate is the right way to say it.
Yeah.
Aggregate out of town.
LECA, I watched a few videos on how it's made just because I'm just so interested in like how things are made.
Oh.
And they fire it. They fire these like clay aggregates in these giant rolling kilns, and so that kind of gives it the circle, the ball shape, but also yeah, it's just really cool. But there's so many variations of LECA. Like I use Hydroton or IKEA LECA because I like the shapes of those better. But there's some that looks like popcorn, or to me it looks a little bit like turds. I don't like those ones.
I was going to say, I don't like those either because I get IKEA usually, or I order a gigantic bag off of Amazon because it's like the cheapest I can find. But Kaylee Ellen sent me a plant at the beginning of 2020, and she had them in LECA, but her LECA was like the rigid popcorn shaped LECA, and the roots actually start to grow because I've reused it because LECA is reusable, which is number one, like one of the best things about it. But I reused it, and the roots grow into those crevices, and you almost have to break them off, like to get that out. So I definitely prefer the smoother edged LECA for sure.
So I guess maybe we should back up a little bit. So you said what LECA stands for. Is that an acronym? Lightweight expanded clay aggregate, LECA.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's an inorganic material, which means it won't break down over time. I mean, it's solid. It's inorganic. It has no nutrients or organisms within it. And you can grow plants in it, which is just like a fun, nerdy thing to do, I think.
Yeah. I think what intrigued me the most was mixing the nutrients for the nutrient water. You use the 3-part system, right?
Yeah, the general hydroponics.
Yeah. So that's what I use too. And I was recently introduced to Plantamin. Have you ever heard of Plantamin?
Only because of your video. That's
okay. So I'm actually experimenting with that now, and I'm curious to see how that's going to go. But yeah, I use the general hydroponics too. And I think both of us, if you guys are interested in starting with LECA and trying it out, I think both of us drew our inspiration from Minimalist Callie on YouTube. She's the first one I saw do it, and she, like, her systems, her videos are just very informative and very easy to follow. So I definitely would watch that if you're interested in trying it. But I don't know, what's the number one thing that you love about using LECA as a substrate? Like what's the number one thing that's convenient for you? Because I feel like a lot of people don't like the nutrient.
Yeah.
The fact you have to mix all the nutrients.
Well, I mean, I think I still don't fully understand, all of them in general myself, like as far as like what affects what as far as the plant growth goes. But
right.
I've learned things over the past over a year that I've been using LECA. I've learned a lot and changed a lot of things from when I started. But I think what I like the most is it just, for me personally, it takes the guesswork out of watering. When all of my plants were in soil, I probably let a good majority of them go too far, dry too long before like watering them. And LECA has really just kind of taken that guesswork out. I still have, I would say 10%, maybe 15% of my plants are in soil. I don't have everything in LECA just because, root growth on philodendrons in particular they go wild. And I don't love all of the roots growing out of the net pots, like going everywhere. It's okay if it does. Me personally, I just don't love that. But yeah, I think it just takes that guesswork away as far as the watering for the plants goes. I can easily see like, oh, this one needs water, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say pretty much along the same lines, except I'm an overwaterer. So I would deal with a lot of root rot and like overwatering my plants. And I feel like this has helped me in that department with that. We should say that Becca's not joining in on this conversation because she doesn't have any plants in LECA.
Right. Yeah, Nicole's correct. I don't have any plants in LECA. I have rooted a few things in LECA, mostly due to Adam trying to push LECA on me and giving me the plants in LECA. And, I mean, they rooted really well. He just gave me a philodendron Atabapoense in LECA, and the roots were just beautiful. And I did transfer it to soil, and there was basically no, like, shock because it was just, I mean, it's better than straight up water propagation, I think. So, but yeah, I would propagate in LECA, but would I ever use that as my substrate? No, I wouldn't. Which
You're
is where
soil gal.
Yeah, and we get into this debate. Well, not us, but like I think a lot of people are like, well, with me, they don't get like upset with me, but they're like, why not? Like, why don't you make videos about LECA? I want to learn about it or this or that. And I'm like, well,
Right.
I just don't want to. I'm not interested. So for Nicole, the nutrients and all that is like something that drew her in, and that's something that pushes me away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I'm
feel
not
like
interested.
it is. I feel like it's an intimidating part of it. Like people are just like, what do you mean you have to mix your nutrient water? Like the LECA doesn't have nutrients in it already. And No, it doesn't. So you definitely have to mix your nutrients. And I feel like a scientist every time I'm doing it. Like I love it.
Yeah.
I have 2 giant jugs and I have them pre-measured
Yeah, you
out
do.
already. I walked
This
right
is
into that.
Confirmed.
You did.
Confirmed. And I don't even have to check my pH because I already know that it's going to be like the right level. Like I'll check it every few months just because our tap water tends to change. But I think that that's another reason people don't really like to use LECA too, because you have to make sure that your pH is at a specific level. Otherwise, your plants could be getting too many nutrients or too little nutrients, and it matters. It definitely matters.
Yeah, there is so much involved with LECA, and I know it kind of became, I don't want to say it's a fad, because I think there's a lot of people who grow like hydroponically, and that's great, but I think a lot of people were like converting to LECA, not really understanding that you have to give your plants more than just water. Like you can't just put water in there and expect for them. I mean, yeah, they might live, but they're not going to thrive. But that mixing the nutrients was the fun part for me too, because it took a couple months to get down. But now when you get it down, like when you know what your water is like, you know how to balance your pH, you know what nutrients to put in there, it's like so easy. And I always have containers of the nutrient solution just waiting to just go. Speaking to Becca and her propagating in LECA, I do, if you don't want to grow your plants in LECA, I totally understand that. It's not for everyone, but propagating in LECA, I just feel like that's a success, because you have water roots, which is when you propagate in water, the roots they call them water roots. I don't know the science behind this, so please don't take my words for facts, but water roots going to soil, some of them die. They're not very sturdy, but when you propagate in LECA, it's kind of like an in-between soil root and water root. So they're a little hardier because they've been around the LECA, but it propagates like you're propagating in water. I think propagating your cuttings in LECA before you move to soil is always just like the better option than water to soil, personally.
Yeah. I mean, it allows the roots to grab onto that LECA, which is what roots like to do. Like they like to make their way through soil. They like to make their way through sphagnum moss. And when they're in water, they have nothing to really grip onto. So they tend to be weaker. I've definitely noticed a change in that too. And I, up until recently, had never tried to propagate in LECA. And I propagated my syngonium in LECA, and it was crazy. Like the roots were thick and fuzzy. Yeah. And it was so much easier to put it into soil after that.
That's another plant that the roots go wild. Like, I'm sure they do in soil as well. And I actually put a lot of albo cuttings in soil, the De La Tanks soil, because I got a big bag and I was excited to use it. I wanted this giant pole of just albo syngonium, so I planted a good chunk of my cuttings that I took in soil. But the one that's in LECA, the mother plant, is just like every time I pull that out to water it, the roots are just like everywhere.
Yes.
It's wild.
For sure.
Yeah.
So actually with that, moving from that topic, I really want to talk about what we don't like about LECA, because that kind of brings me into what I don't like about LECA is the roots growing through the net pot. And my plants, my Hoya in general, love LECA so much. I feel like they grow twice as fast than being in soil. I don't know. Maybe there's no scientific proof behind that. Maybe I got to do a test. But they grow so fast that I can't keep up with the net pot and the cashpo size. I have an Alocasia Regal Shield that's literally in a bucket of LECA because I can't find a pot big enough. I actually recently did find a pot big enough. It's from Lechuza Pon, which is another substrate we can talk about in a second, but they're really expensive, over $100 for a pot.
Yeah.
For the size that I need. So yeah, that's the only thing I don't like is that once you get with terracotta planters can go so big, and you can usually get like a cheap plastic one for a decent price. But when you're looking for like the system of a cache pot, which is, you know, the vessel that holds the water reservoir, and then the net pot, which is what your LECA sits in, if you're looking for that system, it's hard to find.
Yeah, I would say that's probably my biggest downside to LECA is the roots grow. And that's probably one of the questions I think I get a lot is everyone's like, well, what happens when the roots grow into the nutrient solution or the water reservoir?
Right.
And I always just say, like, no big deal. Get over it. Like, it's not get over it. It's not a big deal. Like, those roots are used to being in water. But the longer I've done it, the more I've noticed that those roots actually kind of start to rot. You know, because I think the airflow isn't great down there. Obviously, water does have oxygen molecules, H2O, so it does have oxygen in it. So for me personally, I've started to use wicking cord, and I don't. When I started my LECA, I always said fill the water reservoir 1/3 of the way into the LECA, and I stopped doing that. I've started to use net pots that are shorter and cache pots that are deeper, and I've used a wicking cord. So no part of my LECA is ever sitting in the solution. Some of them are because I haven't transferred them yet, but usually I just have a cotton cord that is then taking the water up, and that's helped a lot. But then the roots just continue to grow out of the net pot into, obviously, the solution.
Right.
You just can't prevent that, but I've tried to stick away from keeping the bottom of the net pot fully saturated in water.
Right.
And it seems to be helping with some of that rot issue.
Yeah, I have some of mine with a wicking cord too, and they love it. I feel like there's no, like, either way, having your LECA sit 1/3 of the way is what I learned too. So that's what I started with. But then with the wicking cord, like, they love it just as much. There's really no difference in plant growth.
Yeah.
I guess when my roots grow, when I notice them starting to grow into the water, like if it's a significant amount of them, then I'll just do like a full-on flush, pull the plant out of the LECA, and then reposition it in the pot, because it still has a ton of room in the pot. It's just growing down through the net pot because it wants to be free. So I just kind of replace it in there, and it buys you more time with going up the next step pot. But
I have a question for you guys. Yeah. Well, actually, I have two questions. So what's your take on just trimming the roots?
I've done that before.
Me too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I've had to do that actually because some of the pots, some of the roots have grown down into the cache pot, and I wouldn't be able to pull them out of the net pot unless I cut the roots. Yeah.
Okay. And so what if, I just thought of this. This is like a little invention that I just thought of. Okay. Maybe like an amendment to the net pot. But you know,
Trademark.
like how, yeah, no one steal it. No, but it might not even work. So let me ask. But you know how people put like old screen at the bottom of their pots to hold in the soil?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What if you put a layer of screen on the inside of your net pot so that, like, around all the borders and the bottom, so that the roots couldn't get out?
I mean, they're going to get out because the tip of the root is always like smaller, and so it just finds the crevice, and then it'll go through, and then it'll kind of just expand on either side of
Even
that
if
screen.
It's like a tiny hole? Like tiny. We're talking like screen.
It might, I mean, like, it might prolong it, but I think that they will still get through eventually.
I mean, because I did put window screen at the bottom of my soil plants, and roots still grow through that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They find a way. Okay.
There are some net pots that I've been trying that are, I think they're made for like orchids, but they're kind of tiered, and it's to encourage the roots not to grow out, but like to grow, it like pushes them down, but then it has airflow coming up because it's tiered. It's hard to explain, but it seems to do the trick. Like the roots have been staying inside the pot, yet still getting enough oxygen. The net pots themselves are just a little bit awkward as far as their shape.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it difficult to find like a cache pot for them. But
I think I know which ones you're talking about. I think I've seen them.
Yeah, it's neat though. I really enjoy it. And like you said, my Hoya I don't know if it's because Hoya in their natural environment are epiphytes. So their roots they do take up nutrients. Their roots do take up nutrients. But majority of the time, a Hoya epiphytic plants, their roots are to cling on to something, to climb up something. And they get a lot of their nutrients from, their foliage. But my Hoya the majority of my Hoya just seems so happy in LECA. And that makes me happy.
Yeah, every time someone will reach out and just be like, man, how do your Hoya grow so fast? Like, my Hoya has not put out a new leaf in like 6 months. And I'm like, is it in soil or LECA? Like, that's my theory.
Yeah.
We should really do like a side-by-side grow test on like soil versus LECA. I think that would be a lot of fun. But I think that Hoya do so well in LECA. Now Pon, I didn't do any research on this. I should have before we started recording, but is it Lechuza? Is that just that specific brand, or does Lechuza own Pon?
No, Pon is the name of like just a certain type of substrate using like volcanic rock, other porous rocks. Lechuza Pon is its own brand, which you can never find ever.
It's always out of stock. Yeah.
But there's been a couple, like Lesia's Leaves I think she did a video where she said like made a recipe for her own Pon, because you just need like vermiculite, volcanic rock, that kind of stuff. But I was interested in trying Pon because it's smaller, and so it seems like things like String of Hearts and like some of those like finer root plants would enjoy that better than the LECA. But I don't have any, and I haven't tried it.
Yeah, me neither. And I did try to order some at one point, but I couldn't. It wasn't in stock. Like, I can never find any in stock from the Lechuza brand. But I haven't seen any other brands. I haven't really done my research on that. But one thing I forgot to mention with LECA is that you really need to make sure when you're converting a plant from soil to LECA that all that soil is off the roots as best as you possibly can get. And that's a time-consuming process. You really just want to get it all off because it can just create more root rot if you don't. But with Pon, I hear you really don't have to clean the roots off as much as you do with LECA.
Yeah, I think that's correct. Again, I've never done it myself, but that's what I've heard.
I'm very interested in trying it. So
I always like when
year...
someone's like asking if they should try LECA, and I always just say try it with a cutting, because like it is kind of a pain to convert a big plant, and they do go through shock. The plant, you're just obliterating their roots. You're not destroying them, but you are shaking them up and washing them off. So cuttings starting in LECA is like so easy, and then it grows into a full plant, and it's lovely.
Yeah, that's probably how like it's a good way for you to fall in love with LECA, because then you won't experience that shock and leaf drop. And
I was going to ask what plants you guys think are best suited for LECA, like a few examples, and then plants you think are not well suited for LECA. Because, well, first of all, I want to update. Nicole, you used to have a cactus in LECA, or you were experimenting with that. How is that going? Is it still...
Yeah, it's going really good. I still have it in LECA. Yeah. And I want to say it's probably doubled in size, maybe even tripled in size since I got it. I received it from Wallflower District over on Etsy, and she sent it to me. She was growing it in LECA because I was talking about how I don't think I've ever seen anybody do that. And I put it in LECA, and the roots are just going crazy, like these big white roots. I flushed it twice since I got it. I think I got it in summer, and it's just doing so well, which blows my mind, because we all just think that cactus don't like moisture. Like, they don't want to be sitting in a water reservoir. Well, it's not sitting in a water reservoir, but it's definitely creating more moisture under the plant. So I just think it's crazy that it's doing really well. And one of my plans this year is to experiment more with euphorbia, succulents, and cactus.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I think that cactus would probably do well in a situation like that, because lots of cactus grow on the side of mountains, over the surface of rocks. Like, they're used to that kind of stuff. like penetrating with their roots and all of that. So I was actually just thinking about that while you guys were talking about how Hoya really like it for that. And there's a lot of cactus. They're not epiphytes, but they grow anywhere they can, in the middle of rocks, on the side of a mountain, upside down, so I wanted an update on that. But what would you say are the best plants for Hoya, like the best genuses and the worst?
I would say philodendron and Hoya are fabulous from my experience in LECA. My alocasia, love it. I would say like strings of things, string of bananas, string of hearts, any plant that's got like this finest of roots do not do very well in LECA.
Okay.
From my personal experience. What about you, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree with that. I did have some string of hearts in LECA, and they did well. They did a lot better than I thought they were going to, but what happened was I just let them go too long without water, and those times where you just like forget about a plant.
Oh yeah.
And then it just like is half dead. Yeah, that's what's happened with my string of hearts. But philodendron, obviously, Hoya, freaking love it. I would say the only one that I have issues with, and it's not even a certain species of plants. It's like any climbing plant that you need to have a support. That's a struggle for me because LECA is lightweight. It's in the name, lightweight clay, expanded clay. And it just doesn't have the stability for support poles outside of like you creating your own stability with like wires and zip ties and stuff. So the climbing ones are a difficult one for me. But they still do really well in LECA. It's hard to get them to where they need to be easily.
Yeah, it is, because I also didn't mention Monstera, and I have most of my Monstera, my Thai, my regular Monstera, my Adansonii, my Siltepecana, my Peru, they're all in LECA, and they're doing really well. But like this one here, I'm just going to show you guys. My Adansonii, like you can see like the support, the stake there. It's so hard, like you said, to get that in there. And like I feel like I don't flush those as frequently as I should, just because it's such a pain in the ass to like to reposition it and get it back in there. But they do love it.
And the flushing, let's just talk about that real quick, because even though you kind of refer to that like as a LECA thing, that should be done with everybody's houseplants, because all of our houseplants build up salts and nutrients when you water them from either the water or just like the soil itself. So, I mean, really, you should probably be at least once a month flushing your soil plants. And LECA, I think I kind of flush mine every couple weeks because you can kind of see the white buildup at the top layer of the LECA. So I just give them a quick rinse, but that's the same thing that happens with your soil plants. It's you might not see it as easily as you do with LECA, but you should definitely be like watering them to where like water will flow through the plant for a couple times to rinse off those extra salts and nutrients that, because those really could damage your plant if they build up a lot.
Yeah. I was going to say, whenever we do get to talking about soil, that's a big part of it.
We're not going to be talking about soil today, Becca.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
She's like, that's what I came here for.
Okay, I've been quiet the whole episode. This is the least airtime I've ever had. I'm not sure what to do. I'm just kidding. No, but I was going to say, I mean, a lot of people ask me, especially with the plants that are hanging up, don't you get water all over the floor? Isn't that annoying? How do you water your plants? And I water every single plant I own in the bathtub or the sink. That's just how I do. I've always done it that way. And I think that's the best way to do it, because if you're watering your plants in the spot, like obviously you have a saucer, but those saucers fill up so fast and you're not giving it a thorough watering if you just toss water on it one time and you fill up the saucer. I'm sorry. I'm going to be the one to tell you that you're not watering very well.
The saucers fill up fast if you're using the right soil.
Yes.
Okay. If you're using crappy soil, they won't fill up at all, and then you'll get all this compacted soil. So, just Dela tanks. Buy Dela tanks because that's the best soil.
My soil mix. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same thing I do with my soil plants too. That's either in the sink or the bathtub.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously our partners just hate that about us because there's
say that.
constant rotating supply of plants in any space that has water in our homes.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Like, your partner might not like you as much, but your plants will be so much happier. I mean, yeah, I just don't understand a world where I wouldn't do that. So it's kind of funny when people are like kind of offended. They're like, you're getting water all over your floor. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
No, I'm not.
It's
I
just funny.
feel so much better since I moved all of my plants pretty much to my kitchen because I use my kitchen sink. I don't use my bathtub. I just never have used my bathtub. And it's funny that you brought that up because Jay, we were thinking of a Vlogmas video to do, and he's like, don't you ever water your plants in the bathtub? And I looked at him and I'm like everybody else, like, is that what you're trying to say? He's like, no, I think it'd be cool, like a cool video to do, like with plants in the bathtub and it being all steamy and showing that, like, you don't really need a humidifier. And I was like, yeah, but I don't do that. I bring them to the sink.
I will
You
say,
emerge.
I love when I like fill up my bathtub with it and turn on the shower and then just like shut the door and then come back like 10 minutes later and it's just like all humid and they're just like, loving it.
Your plants are dancing.
I'm imagining you guys like coming out of your bathroom with all the steam and like, that song where it's like, she's my cherry pie.
Yeah.
I just pictured Nicole like whipping her hair and like coming out with like plants in her hands, like walking towards Jay. That's what he's hoping for, Nicole.
That's what he wants.
Throwing it back, doing that throwback move.
She's not on TikTok. She doesn't know that move.
My kids aren't on TikTok, but TikToks play all through Instagram Reels. Like, it's like TikTok and Instagram Reels. So I feel like I have TikTok because I see a lot of them.
Yeah.
So I know what throwing it back is.
Okay, I'm sorry then. But yeah, so should we, what did you guys have anything else you wanted to say about LECA? Like any last convincing arguments?
I don't think so.
No, I mean, yeah, it's not an easy process, but once you get it down, it's not hard. I think there's a learning curve, and your plants definitely do need their own nutrients. You can't just expect water to be enough. Right. But if you're interested in it, like Nicole said, both Minimalist Callie, so Tiffany, who runs that YouTube channel, she was the first person I had ever saw do it too. And I was so intrigued, and I learned a lot of my knowledge from her videos. And then I've subsequently did a couple of videos. So have you, Nicole. So there's plenty of resources out there. If you're curious on starting, then you can either go to my channel, Nicole's channel, Minimalist Callie. There's just a bunch of others, but
yeah,
we can
look
actually
it up on YouTube. You'll find a bunch of great tutorial, informative videos.
Yeah, I was gonna say we can make a playlist.
But yeah, I mean, plants they require a lot of attention, whether you have your plants in soil or you have your plants in LECA. So like Adam said, like, you need to fertilize your plants that are in soil too. It's not much of a different thing once you get it down.
What were you saying, Becca?
Becca left.
She's
left, like,
Nicole.
What? They're just going to keep talking about LECA. I'm just going to go have lunch.
Nicole, you're not showing up on mine.
Is she off of your screen?
Okay, I was wondering why you so blatantly interrupted Rebecca. Why the hell? I never call you Rebecca. Nicole,
you like not on your screen?
She is. I can hear her and see her, but literally she was in the middle of talking and you just like cut in and we're
oh my god,
and I was
she's
like,
not even on my I can't even see her or hear anything.
Oh.
There's an exclamation point.
Oh, well, I feel special because I can
I can see Adam. I cannot see Nicole though.
It's got to be me.
Oh, well, Becca says she can't see you.
So
she can't see me either?
No.
Can you hear me, Becca?
Yeah. Okay, tell Nicole to shut up so I can say this.
Can she hear me?
Okay, Nicole, Just be quiet for a second so Becca can say something.
I'm going to leave this conversation and come back.
Okay.
Okay. What I was trying to say, Nicole, just kidding. It's fine. Connection issues. What I was trying to say is I'll make a playlist on our YouTube channel with all of Adam's LECA instruction videos and all of Nicole's instruction videos, and then some of their favorite videos from Minimalist Callie, because she seems to be like one of the best people on Instagram to watch, or on YouTube for that. So I'll make a playlist with their favorite LECA videos, and yeah.
That's a good idea.
Thank you.
That is a good idea. Now that I can hear what you're saying.
Nicole, I was literally in the middle of saying that, and you were like, "Yeah." So anyway,
Yeah, I was shook. I kind of looked away from the FaceTime because Becca just stopped talking, and her face went down, and I was like, "Oh shit, she's pissed."
I was wondering why you were smiling. I'm like, did I say something funny? I don't understand. And I was trying to continue talking because I thought you got a phone call, Becca. That's why I thought.
oh my god!
So I was trying to buy us time.
That's so funny. No, I just assumed that you just really had something to say. That's okay.
I would never intentionally cut you off.
All right, so
okay.
Are we ready to get dirty?
Let's talk
Let's
about
get dirty.
some dirt.
Let's get down and
Which
dirty.
is my personal favorite. I'm just not interested in LECA for a lot of reasons. It's just a lot of extra work. It's not cheap to get started with it. And I have all the soil already, so I've never really taken a liking to it. I have considered doing a few plants in LECA, but it just doesn't seem like something that you can have like 1 or 2 plants in LECA and for that to make sense, because you have to buy big jugs of nutrients, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it kind of feels like unless half or more of your collection is in LECA, it's kind of a waste, is what I think.
Is Becca gone again?
No, she's back.
Oh, there she is. Okay. Okay. So, sorry. I'm going to start that over again.
Are you getting your satellite internet tonight?
Oh my gosh. Listen.
Oh.
So they were supposed to come today. I woke up at 8 o'clock. I had to wake up early.
Shit, that's early for you.
That's
so
early.
embarrassing to say. Anyway, move on. No, just kidding. I've just been going to bed so late. I remember I was talking about that at the beginning of season 1, where I was like, I go to bed so late, I wake up so late. I'm back to that. I go to bed at like 1, wake up at 9. Like, I hate myself. Whatever.
I'm back on
Anyway,
my shit.
Animal Crossing.
back on my bullshit. So it was a good 3 months of waking up before 8. It's gone now, but so they were supposed to come today. They confirmed that they were coming today twice, and then they didn't come. And then Daniel calls them, and the guy was like, "You didn't have an appointment set today." And he was like, "Well, then why did we get 2 calls saying that they're coming?" And they were like, "I'm sorry, it just wasn't ever put on the text calendar. I don't know why." And he's like, "Okay, well, can you like waive the fee?" Daniel's like the CEO of asking for people to waive fees. I'm like, okay, if you want to ask. They usually say yes. Do you do that, Nicole?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. I'm always no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm apologizing for their mistake. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry that you're having a weird day.
I'm so the opposite. There's something about like big companies like Comcast, AT&T, where I start off by saying, I know this is not your fault, but I'm not fucking paying this fee. Like, and then I'll go into like, I try to be nice to the person on the phone, because obviously like it's not their fault, but
yeah.
So when's the next ETA for the satellite internet?
I don't know. I don't remember. I didn't hear what day because I was working while he was talking, but I did hear him ask for a discount. or for them to waive the fee, which happened with our first time we got Wi-Fi installed too. And the guy was so mean to me as well. And I was like, whatever. I don't know if he knew, like if the techs know that it's being waived or if it comes out of their paycheck. Like I have no idea, but he was straight up very mean to me. So that wasn't cool. But no, so we are getting satellite internet because our internet is so bad, literally so bad. My upload speed is 1. I looked today.
Oh.
It is 1. And my download speed is like 11 megabytes per second. That's megabytes per second, right? Yeah, it's not good. So it's not going to be much better with the satellite. Like maybe it'll be like 3 upload speed and 50 download speed, which is, you know, it's better. But
It's double.
yeah, download is double. What I need is the upload speed, but that's okay.
Right.
But the craziest thing, can I tell them about the Hiram thing? Listen to this.
Yeah.
Okay. I see we're going off on a tangent right now. We needed a tangent after we just talked about boring ass LECA. I'm just kidding. No, but Daniel was talking to the person on the phone about getting the satellite internet, and then he told him that, oh yeah, like my wife is a YouTuber, so we're just trying to get better internet connection. And he was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Like, and he was telling him that his brother is a YouTube creator, and he even told Daniel who his brother was, and Daniel was like, all right, anyway, cool. I mean, he wasn't rude, but he was like, nice, because he didn't know who it was. And then he couldn't find his wallet, so I had to offer payment information. Classic. I can't find my wallet. And so I got on the phone with him. He's like, oh my gosh, like, are you the YouTuber? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, oh my gosh, like, I have so much respect for YouTube creators. Like, that's so fun. My brother's a YouTuber, so I just really appreciate, you know, whatever. And then I was like, oh, like, would I know your brother? Or in some way it got brought up. And then he goes, oh yeah, like, do you know Skincare by Hiram? And I was like, yeah, I do. Like, he's huge. He's very famous, like 4 million subscribers. He's like, yeah, that's my brother. And I was like, huh? Wait a minute. Who?
I'm sorry, what?
Oh my gosh.
Your brother? What? Anyway, that was just like the coolest moment of my life. And he messaged me on, not Hiram, but his brother messaged me on Instagram, and he now follows my channel. So that was really sweet.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I made a new friend.
I learned a lot of my skincare routine from Hiram.
Yeah,
watching
he's
his
awesome.
videos. Yeah.
Yeah, my daughter watches him, I think.
Yeah. He said that Hiram is like so thankful and like genuinely very humble about what's like the fact that he's like very famous now and just like very thankful. And I was like, no, honestly, I can tell. Like, you can tell when someone's putting up a front and he's not, you know?
Yeah, for
Unless
sure.
he's really good at it, and I've been fooled, but I really don't think that he has a front that he puts up.
Yeah.
So, just a sweet guy. But anyway,
That was a fun story time.
that was a fun story time. So now let's talk about soil.
Yeah.
So soil is obviously the traditional planting method. That's what you use out in the garden. That's what you use usually with your houseplants when you get started. And unless you're growing like hydroponically outside, you know, you can do that outside as well. It's a little different than LECA, right? Yeah, it's a bit different. So pretty much it's, okay, so the basic components of soil, we're just going to break it down. And I'm just moving off the top of my head here, but usually it's like a compost, and then you have, so the compost is where a lot of the nutrients will come from. And then you have a moisture retaining section, if that's what you want. Normally a lot of store-bought mixes will have peat moss as their chosen method of moisture retention. And an alternative to peat moss is cocoa peat, which is basically like shredded coconut husk. And it operates exactly the same way, and it's actually way, way, way better for the environment. It's by no use of mining. It's actually a recycled material from the coconut industry. And so, but you're not going to find that cocoa peat in a lot of commercial mixes. Like, you're definitely not going to find that in Miracle Grow. I don't know about Fox Farm, but like Miracle Grow is probably like the biggest soil company that I can think of, and they definitely use peat moss. Yeah. So the next component in a houseplant soil would be, those elements that break up the soil that allow the roots to breathe. So that would be, anything from perlite to pumice to orchid bark to cocoa chips. Those are usually the most popular options. And I have a preference to pumice over perlite. I do not like perlite. I've had perlite for a long time in a lot of my plants, and I realized that it's just not good. And I've had...
Okay, can I say something on that really quick?
Yeah.
Interrupting you. But I ran out of your soil because I had your soil in my house for a while. Ran out, and I needed to do a repotting video. And I grabbed like the smallest bag of Miracle Grow potting mix from Home Depot. And I had half of a bag of perlite left over from a long time ago. And I had some lava stone. So I mixed all three together. And I cannot even tell you that since using your soil, I hate perlite. Like, I'm ready to repot that plant already because I just hate it so much.
Well, yeah.
I mean, for all the reasons you're...
Yeah, the floating to the top, it doesn't stay in place. I switched away from perlite when I moved to Arizona just because I just had heard so many people like complain about it. And I saw all of the white on the top of my pot. And I was like, why is this all up here?
Yeah.
And I switched to pumice, which I really, really do enjoy.
I recently just saw Betsy Begonia use it for propagating those. So I think I'm just going to use the rest of mine like as a propagating medium, possibly.
I've seen a lot of people use perlite as a propagation technique, and I think that's great. I think that's really great. There's other uses for it. It does hold moisture. It's just not great in your soil because it's so small and it's not creating big enough pockets for those roots to breathe, which even in soil, the roots need to breathe, So you need to have those pockets of air and create a soil that makes that easier. So, I mean, all this to say, I've been mixing my own soil. We all have been mixing our own soil. Like, you guys did not start with LECA, so this is really a conversation for all of us. But we have mixed our own soil for so long, and it's hard to get that perfect ratio. It's frustrating. It can be expensive. But when you do find that perfect ratio with your perfect soil mix, I think soil is a really, really great growing medium for your plants. I mean, it's simple. You don't really have to do anything besides fertilize maybe once a month, sometimes even less, depending on the plant, how like fast it grows, how like heavy of a feeder it is and all of that. But I mean, there's so many options for fertilizer. It's not expensive, and that's the only maintenance you have to use, or that's the only maintenance you have to do for soil plants. So that's pretty much why I prefer soil, because it's a lot lower maintenance, besides the fact that I've heard that people prefer LECA because it's better if you aren't at home as much. You don't want to water your plants because like the water reservoir lasts for a lot longer, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's like a pro for LECA that soil just doesn't have. So there's that.
Yeah. When we all started out, I remember like just going back to like the beginning of my like plant journey. I used to buy the Miracle Grow soil and I used to not amend it, which is fine. Like, I mean, obviously that happens, and people, like, I'm sure every single person started off by just buying a bag of houseplant soil from Miracle Grow from a big box store. But as you progress in your journey with plants, you kind of realize what plants need a little more. You do more research, and then it got to be a hassle. It really did, because I had to buy 5 different bags of things to get the mix that I wanted. And that's a lot of space.
It's unfortunate that like more companies don't create soil blends that are great for houseplants. Like your soil blend, Becca, I don't think I could turn back from that blend for all of my plants, my aeroids, my cactus, like all of them. And it's unfortunate that people that are just starting out in plants trust that if they're buying a bag of soil that says it's for houseplants on it, that it's going to be okay for houseplants. And it's really not.
No.
And like you were going to say, it takes up so much space to get all those bags of things.
Yeah. And so listen, Becca is obviously our very best friend. But if I didn't know this chick at all and never met her, and I came across her houseplant mix De La tanks, I still would have been like, this is the best soil I have ever found in my entire life. So like, don't discount our comments on the soil because Becca's our good friend. This is not planned to plug the De La Tanks houseplant mix, but I'm telling you, it is a one-stop shop. And I will scream that from the top of my lungs anywhere and to anyone, because I have gotten some of my friends, like my fraternity brothers, have gotten into plants. But, you know, to tell them to make a mix, you're like, oh, we'll go buy Miracle Grow, go buy some orchid bark, go buy some perlite. Like, they're kind of just like, I don't want to do all that. So I'm just like, okay, well, here's a mix from De La Tanks, and it's it's easy. Like, it's just a no-brainer. So
yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Thank you. You know, I won't do it. Thank you for saying that. I don't want this to feel like a commercial for a product that I've made with a company that, you know, all these things. But I mean, really, I use it too. I exclusively use my houseplant soil that I made with Tank's Green Stuff, which is a small business in Tucson that uses completely recycled landscaping materials as well. I think I forget to say that a lot, but every single part of the soil is, at least the compost in the soil is recycled, and the cocoa peat and there's no cocoa peat. The cocoa husk is recycled as well. Like, you know, there's just so many things. But oh shoot, where was I going with that? I just like really got so nervous. I got nervous
because we were talking about you.
Yeah. Here's what I was gonna say. I think similar situation to Adam, like when I try to introduce people to plants, it's like, how do you teach someone that? Because you want them to not have to go through those struggles of like using straight up peat moss on their plants, because that sucks to have those realizations. And if you can have those early wins, that makes you want to stay in the hobby for longer. And so you could just give them a bag of premixed soil, even if it's not my soil. I mean, obviously, if it was my soil, that's less work for you. But if you wanted to give them, you know, a bag of premixed soil, that's a great way to get someone started with houseplants. And honestly, like, I've been experiencing so many things with root rot, which I think is so much more prevalent in soil plants than it is with LECA plants. So that's another soil downside. Like, you can experience things like that. Also, there's more opportunities for pests. Not to say that they don't exist with LECA, but, you know, pests, fungus gnats. If you're new in your plant journey, like if you've seen those little black flies, you've got a problem. So
I notice a lot of people just say, like, they call them fruit flies. Like, I've watched other YouTubers or podcasts, and they're just like, oh, there's a fruit fly. And I'm like, well, if you have a house plant near you, it's probably not a fruit fly. It's probably a fungus gnat.
Fruit flies are like bigger and juicier too.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that? Like, when you kill them, you can like feel their guts on your finger, but like with a fungus gnat, they like disintegrate with your hand.
Yeah.
You don't even have to wash your hands after you kill a fungus gnat. Just go about your day.
Yes, exactly. Whenever I kill a fungus gnat, I literally just like wipe my hands together. I'm like, all right, let's move on.
It's a piece of dust in the wind.
I will say, to your previous point, like, you will get root rot in any situation, but with LECA, it is easier to catch it and to see it right away. With soil, like, the only way you really can tell if your plant's having root rot is if you see issues in the foliage, and then you have to unpot your plant. And
usually at that point, when the foliage is starting to show you, it really has root rot, and there's not much you can do. I mean, like, I've had root rot a few times, and it's just not, anytime a plant has gotten root rot, it's either died or it was never the same again. So that's just the truth.
It's probably one of the biggest reasons why I want to try to convert more of my cacti and my euphorbia to LECA to see, because, like I said, I'm an overwaterer, and that's not a practical thing to be when you have a lot of cactus. And by the time you notice your cactus has root rot, there is absolutely, like, you can't snip off a piece of cactus and propagate. I mean, you can, but it's usually too far gone by the time you notice it.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of that happens because of soil compaction. Like, if your soil is well made, and it provides the right amount of airflow and space inside of the pot, root rot will be so much less common, because even if you do overwater, it won't affect it as much or as quickly, right? Don't you think? Like, yeah, with the De La Tank soil, for example, there isn't a ton of I was talking to Jeff, the owner of Vintage Hill, the local shop near me who purchased the De La Tank soil, and he was saying that like it's a little airier than he would create himself. And I was like, hey, just try it out. I mean, he wasn't dogging on it, but he's like, I've never really done a mix like this. And I was like, hey, just try it out and see what you think. And he's like, no, I mean, it totally makes sense. Like, I can see how this would work. And he also said the same thing about the Tank's cactus mix, because the Tank's cactus mix is like pumice and cocoa chips and a little bit of soil, like not even that much. I mean, like compost, not soil. So anyway, I mean, it is kind of shocking sometimes to see like such a small amount of actual compost, because normally when we make our own mix, it's like we put 50% soil or compost or peat moss. But I mean, I'm not going to give the ratio, but it's not 50%, you know? So
it's not, and it shouldn't be. And I think that that's where the whole like unfortunate thing about purchasing bags of soil at like big box stores and from these big companies is you buy that first bag and you're like, okay, I see a little bit of perlite mixed in with this soil or a little bit of pumice. So I guess that's just what I'll do. Yeah. And then you think that that's what you're supposed to do. And it's like, no, cactus don't really even want to be in soil. You know, it's not what they grow in their natural environment.
Yeah, definitely. Especially for cactus. I think cactus mix, like pretty much everyone who makes cactus mix besides Tanks, I think has it wrong. Like, I really do. If you put sand in your cactus mix, like, please stop doing that. Like, so many experts like advise against doing that, but I see a lot of people who are prominent figures in cactus doing that. No one from Tucson, so I'll say that, but or not even Phoenix, but you know what I mean. It's like, I don't know. I don't want to be a soil elitist, but I mean, there's a lot of misconceptions about soil and what the right mix is, and it can be hard to find the right information. But the Tanks mix, De La Tanks.
It's so good.
De La Tanks. I'm telling you, I need to repot my last few plants I repotted because I'm just cringing thinking about it right now.
I know we've mentioned peat moss a couple times in here, and also sphagnum moss, but those two items that are found in a lot of soil mixes in particular are they're not renewable resources. Peat moss is grown in peat bogs that takes years to create. So not that saying that by you going to buy a bag of Miracle Grow, you're the problem, because that's not true. There's so many huge companies and a lot of like really big growers for our agriculture, et cetera, that are using peat as a medium, but it's like quickly diminishing, and it takes a long time to rebuild that supply. So that's kind of one reason why I stopped using it. Once I heard about that and like researched it, I was like, oh yeah, this really isn't great for like the environment.
I didn't even know that. I don't think I knew that. Yeah. So that's good to know.
Yeah. And see, the thing about even like sphagnum moss, at least you can reuse spag. You can boil it and sanitize it and start again. But peat moss, it can't be reused because it loses its ability to be rehydrated after a while. So if you have that soil that dries out in your plants, like, it's going to be a lot harder for that peat moss to rehydrate. And cocoa peat, it rehydrates really easy. Like, it's so much better.
And because of the coconut industry, coconut water, coconut toppings, all of that, we have an abundance of. It's just like constantly renewed by the fruit. So and it's definitely a smart. I think it's definitely a smarter option.
Yeah,
works the same exact.
Yeah, which is why I'm kind of surprised. Like, I was talking to Shota about this. Shota is like my liaison with Tank Screen stuff. Like, he and I are plant friends now. We talk, but he was telling me that, well, I was asking him, like, if peat moss has been, like, notably terrible for the environment, and these people who are plant people, so presumably they care about the environment, why do they keep using it? Like, why is this even still a thing when there's this alternative that works exactly the same excuse me, that works exactly the same way and is more effective? Why are they still using peat moss? And he said basically, like, well, people are set in their ways and they don't want to experiment with other things. This is what's always been used, so they don't want to change. And
maybe I did hear this. Did you mention this in one of your videos? Because now it's
yeah.
Okay.
I talked to
hearing you talk about it. I'm like, wait, I've heard her talk about this before.
I'm like a broken record. No,
you're not.
I talked about it in a soil chat with Shota.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then it makes total sense. Maybe is it cheaper? Like, is one more expensive than the other?
You know,
could that be a thing? Like, as to why?
Know.
Yeah.
I don't know
I mean,
because
as a big company, if you've already like went through the process of like finding your supply chain, I think trying to do that again obviously will be extra work. And companies, maybe they just don't want to go through that process again, but
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
You gotta grow and you gotta evolve, you know, with the times. That's kind of why I started LECA too. Not to bring it back to LECA, but like I thought we've came so far with our scientific understanding of plants and plant life, and why couldn't we grow plants in an inorganic substance by giving them nutrients in liquid form? And it was like the nerd in me that was like, I have to try this. Like, I need to see how this goes. And like Nicole said, LECA is reusable. Like you said with spag, like you boil it, you get the stuff out there, and then you can put another plant in it.
Yeah.
The only reason I purchased like multiple bags of LECA over the past year is because I've accumulated more plants to pot. I don't think I'll ever have to purchase more LECA, because for the past few months I've consistently had like a tub of LECA that I can reuse. Like, whether I've given a plant away or a plant died, like, I'm able to reuse that.
Yeah, that's how it's been for me with spag. Like, I know that spag is not the greatest thing to be buying. However, I bought a small block of it over a year ago, and I just ran out. Like a little, like a little block. I think I paid like $15 for it. And I've made like tons of moss poles. I've propagated so many plants in it. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying everyone go run out and buy spag, but it is reusable. And LECA, that's also reusable. Is soil reusable? No, not necessarily. You can sanitize your soil in certain ways. Basically, the best way is just to like leave it out in the sun for a few days. But with that, you're killing all the microbes and the nutrients in the soil. So you're going to have to replenish that. So now you have sterile soil, and there's really no point to it unless you're going to infuse the nutrients back in. And there's products for that. Yeah. So technically, I guess, it is reusable, but at what cost, I
feel like the most times I've reused soil, air quotes, is just like putting it into my garden, like adding it outside. Like I have reused soil a couple of times on indoor plants, but I've also heard of people putting their soil in the microwave, and I have never done that. Is that a thing?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I did a video. I was just thinking, one of my like early on videos I talked about, because that's when I just got rid of all of my fungus gnats. I was like, no matter what bag of soil you buy, it's usually has fungus gnats in it.
Yeah.
Like the larvae, and then they hatch. Yeah. So
wait, you did a video on this?
Yeah.
I've seen all your videos.
Well, bullshit. I'm calling bullshit on that one.
Yeah. Oh. Okay, I'm calling bullshit on myself. I'm going to go back to your channel.
It was me repotting Ahoya Chelsea cuttings, and I talked about how I microwaved the soil. And I regret that, because the soil did act different after that. Like it
really,
when it compacted, it was like rock hard. Like I don't know why it did that, and I don't do that anymore. I mix in mosquito bits with my soil at the just to stay ahead of the fungus gnat situation and all of that. But yeah, because Becca's right, it does kill the microbes, and it kills all of the organisms that are living in there, the beneficial organisms. I mean, because it's going to kill everything, the bad and the good.
Yeah, and another way that I've suggested to kill, fungus gnats is to put hydrogen peroxide in your water, and that is definitely like 100% the most effective way to kill them, because that kills
the eggs and the larvae.
Yeah,
I've done that before too.
But that also kills the microbes. It kills those too. But honestly, like I didn't experience like weird compaction or anything like that. But that was something I asked Shota about, like, what am I killing when I do that? Because it's not just fungus gnats. So you could do that with fungus gnats. You just have to replace the nutrients. And there are ways, there are ways to do that. It's not the end of the world, but it's just something to consider.
Yeah.
Because, soil is very simple, but there's still some things. But there's a lot of research out about it because it's been around for so long. Like, that's basically been the default growing method for forever. So there's a lot of research and good products out there. You just have to find it.
Now, when you're repotting a plant, I have seen people take a bit of the soil that the plant was previous in, whether it was like a nursery or maybe their old pot, and mix it in with the new soil, because they said that there's microorganisms that were in that soil with that plant that it's used to, and it kind of helps not turn it into like a full-on shock. But me personally, whenever I repot one of my soil plants, I knock all that crap off. And I think you do too, Becca, because you talked about in the video, because you're just like, well, the water retention is going to be different then between the two different mixes, which makes sense.
I've left soil on there for that reason alone, but I think that's just a theory that I put in my head. Like, this plant's used to this soil, let me just repot it so I know it's not like incompacted, nasty soil. But still give it a little bit of what it's used to, because it looks so good right now. So it must be doing something right.
Yeah.
I haven't I don't think I've experienced anything from that specifically, but that makes sense though. Like, to get all of that off. And
I have noticed that this plant goes through shock when I remove a lot of the soil. I mean, there's some plants, when we were doing the soil experiments, like testing out the different mixes that we came up with for De La Tanks, I bare rooted like 5 pothos, and all of them went through shock. All of them.
Yeah.
And the one that was in the winning mix, well, then we had 2 versions of the winning mix, but the 2 that were in like the winning mix, they both perked up the best out of all of them, because we had some like super compacted soil, and then like some like basically cactus mix, just to see on the spectrum like what. And basically they perked up eventually, but it did, because I was observing those plants so closely, I noticed it took like 2-3 weeks for them to look normal again after I did that. And that was like spraying the roots down like you would when you're putting a plant in LECA.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's pretty much what a plant will go through when you're transferring it to LECA for the most part.
Yeah, because you remove all the old soil.
Yeah.
So there was also that to factor in. But normally I wouldn't get it down that far. Like, I would remove all the chunky bits, but if there's like soil on the actual roots, I'm not going to take it to the sink and wash it off.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that's a good conversation surrounding.
This is a great conversation. Lots of information.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, is there anything else you wanted to say about soil, Miss Becca?
Where can we find De La Tanks?
Oh, okay. I'll tell you where you can find De La Tanks. So De La Tanks is always linked in my YouTube description box, always, through an Amazon affiliate link. And yeah, I think I have to tell you legally it's an affiliate link. So anyway, that's there. So if you want to buy it online. However, we are working on getting it in stores, but obviously because it's not Miracle-Gro, that's a bit harder. It's not a super globally well-known company, so we're working on getting it in local nurseries around the country for anyone listening outside of the U.S., unfortunately, you won't be able to buy it because there's agricultural rules and laws against that kind of stuff, especially regarding soil. So I do apologize for that. But in Arizona, it's available in pretty much any plant retailer that you enjoy, like a nursery, obviously not Lowe's and Home Depot, but nurseries. And then in Missouri, it's available at Vintage Hill in Franklin, Missouri. Oh, I think it's Franklin.
But if you happen to work at Home Depot or Lowe's, maybe you can talk to your supplier. And
can you also
talk to
someone.
Can you also buy it from the Tank's website?
You can send Shota an email.
Okay, you can email him.
Yeah, so if you want to buy it online, but you don't want to buy it through Amazon, which I completely understand, you can contact Shota directly. And his contact information is on their website, tanksgreenstuff.com.
Okay.
Yeah. But I would say, you know, obviously the soil is already done for you, but if you are still wanting to do it on your own, just make sure that it's possibly chunkier than you think it should be, because that's really the best way to ensure you never deal with root rot.
Yeah, I mean,
and yeah,
my system with soil, I used to and kind of still do buy Fox Farm Ocean Forest because I really liked Fox Farm. I mix in worm castings with that. I mix in pumice, I mix in orchid bark, and I mix in charcoal. So like that's 6 bags of stuff. But, you know, if you don't want to buy the De La Tanks mix, which is completely your prerogative, or if you like to mix your own soil, like those are good components to have in an airy soil in different measurements. Obviously, you want more compost, more soil if you want to retain more moisture for the plant. If you want it to kind of be more airy, you just add in a lot of the other mixes. But
toss in some mosquito bits.
Get some skeeter bits in there.
Skeeter bits. Yeah, for sure. For sure. And something with soil, just a quick thing. If you find mushrooms in your soil, don't worry. It's actually a good thing. It means that there's microbial activity. Fungal activity.
Fungal activity.
So I've been getting that question a lot for some reason. It's a good thing.
Yeah. There was just something else I wanted to say about soil. I think my biggest surprise with plants was like not the watering. You know, when I first started plants, like I just thought like, oh, a plant needs water every week, or like every couple days you just pour a glass of water in it. And that to me was like the biggest surprise of like understanding that I think every single houseplant likes to fully dry. Like they want their water to fully dry, the majority of them, before you water them again. And that's just something that I think as a new plant parent I never understood, and I was fully surprised by.
Did you just put a couple ice cubes on top and let it melt?
Oh man, so wrong. It's so wrong.
If you do that, stop now.
Yeah, plants don't want that freezing cold water. How would you feel about jumping into a freezing cold pool?
Yeah.
And like 2 ice cubes? What the hell is that going to do for your plant?
That's so funny. It's so weird because obviously that's terrible advice, but people who give that advice, like, geez, they've got these beautiful orchids. And I'm like, what's going on?
Right.
Yeah.
You got to give it to them. But
it's literally written still on instructions for orchids.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe a future guest of the pod will be able to talk to us about why that's not okay.
Yeah. Elaborate on that.
It's funny.
All right. Should we wrap it up?
Yeah, I mean, we're over an hour and a half here, so
I love that though. It's a good start to the season.
yeah, maybe that person that commented that we never talk about plants will take that back.
What is this? I thought this was a plant podcast.
Oh my god.
Well, thank you guys so much for watching this episode and for just loving on the pod and hanging out with us. It's always so fun. What are you laughing at?
And by watching, she means thank you for listening to this episode.
Listening.
YouTuber problems.
Oh, they're not watching us as I sit in my closet.
With that bugger hanging out of your nose.
Okay, literally, I thought I was being called out. I was like, wow, that's cold.
Honestly, I know we're all pretty good friends, but if Nicole called you out like that, I would probably have a talk with her afterwards and be like, hey, that wasn't the nicest way, because she was like, because it wasn't very nice. But Nicole would never do that. Like, she would never treat you like that.
She has. Is anyone
I love how
gonna
you
tell her she has
say-
a big booger?
I love how you say I would have a little talk with her afterwards.
Yeah. Which wouldn't go
You're the
well because
moderator.
Nicole could take me in a second.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't think that we'll ever get in an argument. I just don't see it happening.
No,
Knock on
I would be
wood.
terrified to like have Nicole mad at me. Like, no joke.
Same.
Oh my gosh, are you
Yeah,
serious?
'cause I just
We
feel
like
like-
walk on
I feel like
eggshells.
you would be. I don't walk on eggshells with you, but I feel like you would be like the feisty. Like, you would just be like bam, 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 and I would just like cower in a corner.
I don't think so. I've had a best friend for 33 years of my life, my friend Nicole, and we talk about it to this day how we got into one argument our entire life. And it was when we were maybe like 13 or 14 and we were riding bikes, and I like turned the corner and like went ahead, and she got really upset. And we came back to my porch, and like literally 5 minutes later I came outside with popsicles, and I was like, do you want one? And she's like, yeah. And that was the end of the fight.
Popsicles save the world.
Oh
They
my
did.
gosh.
They saved the day. And she's probably listening to this cracking up because she listens to the podcast.
Oh my
but
gosh.
that's like, I don't like when I have friends, I don't fight with my friends like ever.
I don't either. I was just about to say that.
No.
Yeah.
I have a childhood friend. We've been friends forever, like you and your friend, and we would fight when we were like 11. But it's because she was mean to me, and she'll admit that now. But like that's it. That's the only friend I've ever fought with, and we haven't fought since we were like 15.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen anymore.
No. And if it's happening, maybe that's not a friend you want.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't get it when friends get in fights and like have to break up. Like I don't get it. I
Yeah.
can't relate. I've had friends that I drift apart from, but I've never had like a blowout and then we're not friends anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, something to look forward to,
Anyhow.
you two.
Oh god. No, if Nicole and I got in an argument, I feel like it would be explosive because I am very argumentative when
Are you?
get into an argument. I'm an Aries. Adam.
Oh, okay, yeah. I shut down. I like go quiet and need processing time.
No.
Yeah, see, I'm very quick to like admit when I'm wrong. I feel like I don't, so
Yeah.
I feel like if we got into a fight, I'd be like, oh, okay, she totally has a point. Like it wouldn't go further than that. I don't think.
Listen.
But who knows? We'll see. Stay
I
tuned.
feel like I'm the same way, but when the person isn't quick to admit they're wrong, I'm like, well, let me show you.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
And that's why I get into arguments with my partner, Daniel. Like, well, we don't argue all the time, but we like bicker, And
Yeah.
because he just is not that person that's going to be like, okay, here's why I think, like I would be. He's just a little
Yeah.
bit more stubborn. Like we're both two very stubborn people. So we just, neither of us back down.
Yeah.
I think
double
that this
down.
I think the arguing with people that you live with, though,
That's
who
different.
you're around all the time, I think that's different. I think that's almost like a healthy thing. Like,
Yeah.
you have to you're gonna have some disagreements because you're two individual people, but like we don't hang out that much. Like, what are we gonna have to argue about?
That's so true.
Yeah.
Unless we started a commune and we all lived together, which,
Oh my god, that'd be great.
Yeah, that sounds like a dream, honestly. So.
I was going to say that would be hell.
Oh, well.
Okay, well, we're gonna wrap up this episode.
we
of
know
Get
who
It
likes
Together.
who more in this little trifecta. Just kidding.
Oh.
Becca, we're gonna have a talk after this. Okay.
I'm just
All
kidding.
right.
Obviously, that would be so fun. I'd love for us to all live in the same place.
I know.
Where?
So totally off topic, but Q&A question I got from Instagram was, are you sad that Becca moved?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
But also like my answer to that is no, because you're closer to me now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And the only reason we haven't taken advantage of that full force, I think, is just because of COVID, like,
Yeah.
in all honesty.
Yeah, I probably would have gone to Chicago by now.
You're
I mean,
gonna-
I will
You're going
be-
to love it. You're just going to love it. I'm a city
my God.
boy.
Oh my
Wicker
God.
Park, all of the suburbs that are just like so cool.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. Nicole was actually messaging me this morning because I said on my stories, someone asked me what I think of people from the Midwest. And like my husband's from the Midwest, so it's not as if I've never experienced people from the Midwest. And I'm talking like rural Midwest, not like Chicago.
Yeah.
And basically my assertion is that they're just like really nice, really, really nice. And Nicole goes, well, just come back down to Chicago. We'll humble you. Or she said something like that. She's like, it's not like that in Chicago. And I was like, yeah, like I'm excited to be with my people again. Like, I don't want to smile at you. Like, I'm sick of smiling at strangers. Like, don't look at me. I don't want to tell
now
you
with
how my
face
day
coverings.
Yeah.
With face coverings being a thing, I feel like I save my cheeks from hurting on a daily basis because I don't have to smile constantly. Because it is like, you know, people are definitely nicer where I'm at, like here, like in the burb area, than they are in like, don't go to New York. Like if you're used to nice people, New York, everybody's pissed off in New York.
I love New York. I just love not talking to people.
Like, honestly, yeah.
Unless I know you, it's a lot of effort for me to talk to someone just because I'm so shy. It just like takes a lot. It drains me.
Yeah.
You know what I don't like, and this is going to make me sound like such a yatch. I am fully aware, but I don't like asking strangers how they are. Because guess what? I don't care.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm so mean.
Same.
But like...
No. And on the other side of that, though, is like no one really gives to a stranger. You never give the real answer. So like, what's the point of the sentiment? Because like, everyone just like, I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good.
And
the weather sucks, but you know.
Yeah, I know that they don't care about my answer, so why would I tell them? I think that's where it starts. It doesn't start with me not wanting to ask. It starts with me not wanting to tell.
Yeah. Because
I know they don't care.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm not that much of a yatch. But I mean, it's just like, you don't know me. It doesn't matter to you. You're never going to see me
Next time someone asks you that, just be like, I'm not doing too well. Do you have a minute? Yeah. I'd like to talk about this and get this off my chest.
Well,
I'll never say it again.
I'm having a lot of diarrhea. I basically could have pissed it out and saved the toilet paper. But other than that, things are good.
How are you doing today? Well, have you ever heard of butt piss?
Oh my God. And this, folks, is why we'll never get into an argument.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you can find us at Instagram at Potted Together as this podcast. And individually, I'm at Not Dude. You have at De La Plants, and you have at My Clean Leaves.
That's right.
Yeah, find us on
And then we're on YouTube. We've made
YouTube, the tubes.
Yeah, we've made a few YouTube videos. Probably another one by the time you hear this, maybe.
Hopefully, I'm on it.
I'm putting it out there in the world because we want to do YouTube, so might as well. Wait, what? We want to make videos. Oh God, let's end it.
We want to make the videos.
Okay, bye.
It's been 2 hours.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I will say one more thing.
Silence.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode, guys. And we really want to continue this conversation. So make sure you head over to Instagram, Potted Together. Leave a comment. Let us know what substrate you use and what you like the best. And we'll continue the conversation over there. All right, guys. See you next week.
Bye.
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 Gear Patrol calls their new dive watch the best sub-$500 dive watch. Full stop. Men's Health rated them as the most stylish solar watch in the game. Who are we talking about? It's Movement. They're leveling up your gift giving with the sleekest watches you can buy and the biggest deals of the season. Shop 30 to 50% off Movement's innovative California clean watches, jewelry, and accessories with fast free shipping and returns now at mvmt.com. That's mvmt.com.